Hello and welcome to Decorating Pages. I am your host Kim Wannop, and here we are. It's the first day of Emmy voting. If you are a Television Academy voter for any of the peer groups, today is the first day of voting. How exciting is that? Now, as a governor, I am privy to some knowledge, and I will let you know that usually the first 2 days are the busiest in voting, and then like the last day. People forget about it. They send out a reminder and then people are like, oh shit, I gotta get my vote in. So yeah, I would say the last month and a half, all of it, going back to you go back to end of the year with the Penguin and Monsters, and then starting up with like Daredevil and Bondsman and American Primeval. The last 2 months on this podcast have been packed with Emmy-worthy conversations. And it's really been an honor to sit down with these brilliant minds behind the year's most visually stunning shows. Production designers, set decorators, art directors who are shaping the storytelling one frame at a time on television. And I think you can tell by some of the shows that I talk about, the bar is high. It is high. I don't know how you compete with some of these shows, but if you are a Television Academy voter or just a design lover, now is the time to listen to past episodes and today's episode. These episodes aren't just interviews, they're insider access to the creative decisions that deserve recognition. And also, let's just say, if you've ever dreamed of doing what I do and what other set decorators do, I do have a set decorating masterclass that is out now. That is a downloadable audio lessons with a quick bonus reference template that is a bonus to anyone who purchases. And they help you master the art, the craft, and the business of set decorating. So whether you're starting out or just leveling up, this masterclass was made to give you the knowledge that I wish I had when I began. If you've listened to this podcast, you know that I'm not a gatekeeper, as they say. Like, I just tell you how to do it, how I did it, and I'm honest. And that's what you get out of the masterclass, an honest guide to being a set decorator. So you can catch up on all of these episodes and explore the masterclass on decoratingpagespodcast.com. Also, the YouTube channel has all these stunning visuals of all of the sets that we've talked about. So subscribe there, and I put it out when I put the episodes out. So if you're listening to this and in your car and then think, oh yeah, minute 37, they were talking about that set, I really want to check it out, just hop on over to YouTube. Go to minute 37. It kind of syncs up. I shouldn't say this. I don't put this beginning on there. I only put the interviews. Try to condense it for you. But also, I have clips on TikTok and Instagram. So if you just want a little visual click, just go on there and follow this. So, what Wannop's watching? Well, nothing, man. I talked to you on Tuesday. I got one night to catch up here. But I did get to watch I taped it, the live version of Good Night and Good Luck that premiered on CNN. And the designer is Scott Pask, and he recreated the CBS newsroom and the set for Edward R. Murrow's broadcast, aiming for the very authentic and immersive audience for a Broadway show. He used elements like black and white broadcast monitors that there is a TikTok or an Instagram video of George Clooney talking about the sets, and the cameras were completely hollow and fake, and then they had a little monitor in there because some of the actors have to do some of the camera work, which is very interesting. So recreating the CBS newsroom, I thought, was fantastic on a stage and making it interactive. I thought that was awesome. There's a beautiful bank of monitors that is lined up on the proscenium, and the monitors create a sense of intimacy, and they really frame out the space, which I thought was great. There's also this use of a large screen but it's introduced later in the performance, so it adds some suspense and dramatic impact later on in the thing. By the way, I love Goodnight and Good Luck, the film, decorated by the great Jen Pascal. I'd love to hear her input about the sets, and oddly enough, David Strathairn, which I know I'm not saying that right, the actor who is in Goodnight and Good Luck, is currently on season 2 of A Man on the Inside, and that's all I think about when I see him, is like looking at him in black and white or something. It's fantastic. So it's cool. It's cool that comes around. Like, this is out right now, and I see the guy. It's crazy. I loved all the vintage details they gave to the set too. The control room, the switches, the toggles, including really, really, like, they had vintage ashtrays and everything you could think of. I just thought it was really well done as a play. I love George Clooney. I think it was just fantastic. So if you get a chance, I'm sure you can DVR it or something on CNN. That's what I did. So yeah, that's what I've been watching. I should say, I meant to bring this up in this interview, but I interviewed maybe 2 years ago Pat Irwin, who was the music supervisor on Dexter Resurrection, was it? Or Dexter, or the last season of Dexter. And to me, it was fascinating to listen to his version of designing the music throughout the series. And it really opened my eyes to a thought of, man, I wish I could have the music when decorating. Like, what if it's like upbeat, or it's like mysterious or something like that? How it all plays out together, creates the suspense, or creates the comedy, or just creates the scene. So I have always thought about that interview and how important music is. So if you are interested, there is a previous episode of that on this. But let's get to it. It's the last episode. We had a long run here. Let's do it. So I speak to the production designer Eric Weiler, art director Raf Lydon, and set decorator Jeffrey Kushon about Dexter and how wonderful it is. They will tell you that they have worked on the series before. Eric and Jeffrey worked on the other series, the main series, and how bringing this character back, but as a young person, how interesting that is. I thought that was a really interesting way to decorate and way to design. So they reimagined the early 90s Miami vibe, but also brought back iconic Dexter sets with a fresh, deadly twist. If you want to know what it's like to build a crime scene from the ground up, that's what we're going to talk about, down to the exact gauge of what plastic wrap to use. This is fascinating. And I think I was really key on asking that question of what mill of visqueen are you using? So they talk about how some of the set dressing was saved basically from a dumpster to be used, what kind of Easter eggs they put in there, hint, maybe an ice truck. How they have a Bible, a kill room Bible for the blood splatter scenes behind every murder, which I think is fantastic. Could you imagine getting your hands on that? They filmed in L.A. They made Pasadena, Van Nuys, and Long Beach pass for Miami. That is key, people. You can shoot in L.A. You can do it. So, very interesting. Very glad to speak to them. It's a really cool series if you're a Dexter fan. So I hope you enjoy.
Drink around the world in Epcot.
Ah, that's awesome. Oh my gosh. Well, I don't want to keep you from that. So I will make this quick and painless, which is not something Dexter would do, but
no, he likes to leave things lingering for a while. He likes to savor the moment whenever he can.
Slow and painful.
Slow and painful, exactly. And enjoy it. There you go. It's like a fine wine.
Yep.
How? Let me ask you this: were you guys fans of the show, or the original?
I did. We both worked on the original.
Oh, you both, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did season 3 and
Yeah,
4,
4.
and Jeff, how many? I don't know how many seasons you did.
I
You did
did
the last 2?
last 2 seasons, 7 and 8, but I actually always loved the show, and I actually tried to figure out who the designer was. Originally, I'd saw even way back when Eric was doing it, I'd saw his name on there and wanted to reach out and say, "Hey, I'm a big fan. Can I decorate the show for you?"
Yeah.
Then I ended up getting in touch with Jess Kinder, just
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
much like a cold call. And I was like, hey, I really, really want to do Dexter. I would love to interview with you. And she kind of already had considered hiring someone else. But then when her and Sam, her art director, um, interviewed me, they were like, "You're the guy. You're definitely the guy," you know. And so I was the only set decorator make it more than 2 seasons.
Yeah, it really rotated. It
It
was a
did every
lot.
year. And Sarah, the showrunner at the time, she was, I think, she used to work in New York as a designer, interior designer. So she had a specific eye that she wanted for the show. And if you didn't make that cut, then you didn't get invited back. And her and I just had a really good rapport with each other. And they invited me back to finish the final season, which was great. So yeah, I was always a fan, and I was kind of the highlight of my career. And then Eric bringing me back on for this, was kind of a dream come true, because I was like, I definitely have to be a part
Yeah.
of this one. And he had already had kind of a decorator in place. So it was one of those things where I just kind of pushed my way in and convinced them, hire me. You'll
Please.
look, it's in my DNA. Dexter's in my DNA. So
I don't
Thank
know if
God
that's
you
a good
did.
thing.
You did a wonderful job.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so my like I said, I did season 3 and 4. I met Clyde Phillips actually then. So I was doing Californication at the time,
Oh, right.
season 2, and I had just wrapped. It was half hour, and I got a call from the studio head at the time, Vince Porter, and he said, "How'd you like to do Dexter?" And the funny thing is, that was one of my favorite shows. And when I
Yeah.
had just literally like 3 days before my wrap on Californication, I'm like, why can't I? Which, it was a good show, but it was like every show's the same, once
Right.
they did the first season.
Yeah.
And I thought, why couldn't I get on a show like Dexter, something I really like? And my phone rang and said, "Can you come over the weekend?" And I went to Paramount and met Sarah Colleton, Clyde Phillips, and Robert Lewis. I didn't even get off the lot. They called me. I was in my car, and they said, "We want you. Can you
That's
start
awesome.
Monday?"
That is awesome. You secreted it. You
So
secreted
then
it.
I did
In a
season
vision
3 and
board.
4, which was Jimmy Smith's, and Lithgow, which were two of the best seasons, I think.
Yeah.
I did.
I love Jimmy.
And then what happened, Clyde left the show, and I left, and I was off in Europe doing a movie. So that was my last
Mm.
season for a bit. And then many years later, when New Blood came out, Clyde called me and says, "I haven't talked to anybody yet. How would you feel about if we did a new Dexter?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, that was awesome.
That's awesome.
8 years later, he shows up. So yeah, so I did New Blood, and I'm actually working in New York doing Resurrection as well now.
That's crazy. I love that this story just keeps going and they keep like bookending like better scenarios for him. It's such a great character and they really milking it for everything. But in a good
Well, yeah, and
way.
I tell you,
In a good way.
Original Sin. I mean, I think the actors knocked it out of the park. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just, and the dynamic between Christian and Patrick, Dexter and Harry are fantastic. I
Yeah.
mean, they really nail it.
Christian Slater's fantastic.
He's just so good. It's funny because at first I was like trying to picture him as Harry, and I did, and then once I saw him acting, I was like, oh my man, casting was fantastic.
Yeah,
yeah.
it is. The only thing I didn't go for was like the younger versions of some of the cops. I was like, you're playing. It's hard for them. I was trying to put myself in their shoes of like,
Right,
you have to play
yeah,
this actor playing a part. Like
right.
it's kind of unfair for them in a sense of like I have to look like this person and I have to be this character. It was hard, I thought.
Yeah, there's a fine line with that, because I mean, obviously, it's such a sacred
Yeah.
show. And when these actors were stepping into this, they had big
Right.
shoes to fill. And I
Yeah.
think there was a lot of trepidation with the fans of like, and criticism, like, how can you ever do that? And I mean, every time a actor would show up on set, Eric and I would look at each other and be like, wow, look at LaGuerta.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Or look at Batista. I mean, they
Yeah.
nailed it on every count. And then, with Patrick coming in as Dexter, um we didn't really, in the very beginning, we didn't see it, but then the minute that he snapped into his role and he lost his Irish accent and went into his Dexter, he completely changed. You could see his whole face change, and he would transform into this persona, which was in one sense very creepy, and in the other sense it made us all feel like, yes, this is it.
Yeah.
This is the magic that you love when you're behind the scenes watching this stuff go down.
Well, I think what he brought to it too was the whole awkwardness of Dexter, a young Dexter, as he
Yeah.
becomes, as he finds himself, and he
That
did a
hair.
really good job of that, and then develops throughout the season.
Raf, were you super stoked to get on to?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
fantastic. I didn't work obviously on the original series like the other guys did, but it was great to get the call and to come in and just work with Eric and Jeffrey was fantastic. I mean, we had such a good rapport together, and we had a great art department, great set deck department, and it was, it was hard at times because we had so many locations to do. Like the guys could talk about that, and we were constantly all over the place doing stuff. But I think we had a really good, strong art department and set deck department together, and we all really got each other well. And it was great to go into it and into the whole environment, and then recreate all the stuff from the original show, which was fantastic, and all the flashback stuff as well, which it was flashback in the original series, and we made it more into reality in our show.
You had,
We like our flashbacks.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you guys really, how many times, like I don't know, the 80s and 90s, like you're all over the place in this timeline. Like
Yeah.
keeping track of that and styles and, giving it that look of aging and everything, but it's new. And then having aged it for like, the flash forwards or the present day of their story is really great. Like just keeping track of all that. It was really
Yeah, and even like the house, like Dexter's house, we had to do that several different time periods.
Yeah.
Which so it's the same sets we're flipping over, and then the police station, which we did the flashback. Which anytime we had flashbacks to the 70s, that was my favorite. It's just such an awesome looking time, and I can really go crazy with wallpaper, which is fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I took full advantage of.
Yeah.
Wallpaper, drapery.
There were times I looked at his choices. I was like, "Are you kidding me? How I would never have the guts to do that." But he did it, and it paid off, and it really sold the period for those quick flashbacks
Yeah.
that you needed to know instantly you were not in present day, or actually 1991 Miami, which is a whole different look too than L.A. Miami had a very distinctive look back even in the 70s, 80s, and 90s than L.A. or New York or anywhere else. So.
Yeah, I mean, just coloring an actor's hair doesn't do it. The set has to sell it. Like you have to.
Yeah, it's the combination, the architecture, the locations that we did, and Jeff's. And when I tell you the detail that he put into this stuff, like Clyde would walk around, and the crew would walk around, and the talent, and Michael's, or not Michael, but Patrick. I mean, that's like the whole police station, like in
Yeah.
the 70s, to like pens on a desk, period. Like every little old thing you could remember seeing back in the day, he had. It was amazing, the layers of period stuff. It was like just amazing.
Were you going back and forth in the schedule, or did you shoot out? Like, did you have like, oh, we're gonna shoot the 70s, or did you have to keep going back and forth?
Now we went back and forth from different locations and different. I mean, we tried to cross board as much as we could. So we had all 10 episodes before we started, so we knew what
that's
we were
nice.
gonna. Yeah, usually Clyde always. The last 4 series I've done with him, he has all his scripts ready, which is great. It helps us map it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
like when we would go to certain places, we knew we'd try to shoot it out, so we didn't have to go back there as much.
So their house was a build.
Yes.
Correct. And then and the police station was a build.
The police station, right? And then we had a lot of swing sets, and we built it.
Yeah.
Like the whole water tank and the ship.
I have. We're gonna get to that.
We built. Yeah.
I have that. I love there is something about like when you progress in someone's home. Nobody redecorates every 5 years or something, and maybe they get a new fridge, or maybe they get this and that, but like
Yeah.
the detail of keeping the home still like dated and realistic was fantastic too, I thought.
Yeah, I think what our whole thing was is who would have redecorated after their mom
Right.
died.
Right.
I don't think Deb's going out saying, "Let's go to Levitt's and buy a new sofa." I
Right.
think that it's pretty much Eric and I determined at that point that maybe um, their mother did it right before she passed away, kind of had a revamp from the 70s, and it kind of just stayed in that place. The art on the walls, everything. We
Yeah.
moved obviously things around and changed the little things, but pretty much it kind of like was trapped in time. And I think that helped play into the time capsule of really missing their mother, because they saw all her touches
Right.
still present after her passing. So these are all just things we kind of thought about, like what would it realistically be. I know sometimes for the audience we have to show direct hits of like change the refrigerator, change the stove, change the drapes, that kind of thing that people would do. Then and obviously the furniture, but we kind of figured that she did a little remodel before she passed away.
Right. Were there having worked on the original show, were there certain elements that and in decor or the design that you thought, this is a great little Easter egg, like let's throw this in here to flash forward to an episode that, in the original series?
Yeah, we threw his. Well, Jeff can talk more about the set deck stuff, but I think it was actually Jeff's idea too. When we did an exterior shot in Miami, we had the ice truck drive it through the scene. That was from the Ice Truck Killer.
Oh
That
God,
one
that's
later
good.
in the future from when we shot it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we found almost the exact truck. And I thought it would be, if we could have taken it further, it could have been Brian driving it or something, and said to Dexter, "Hey, get the hell out of the way, man!"
Right.
The thing. But we tried. We pitched a lot of stuff to Scott and Clyde. Like what we could bring from his early beginnings that would later play in his life. Like in his room, I have a bowling pin because he eventually kind of in the original series we got really into bowling.
Mm.
So we kind of did those elements, a little bit of a knife collection in his room of like pocket knives. And we really tried to, especially, Scott was very particular about his horror genre VHS tapes that would be on his
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
and so we had a list of the exact movies that he would have been into for that time period. And Clyde's really particular. Like he'll go and look at every VHS and make sure that it was pre 1991. Like
Right.
he'll go
But
look at that. So you have to be really on your game. You can't, uh, be lazy at all, because he'll look at all those little details.
no,
Eric,
Clyde has this crazy ability. He's like he can look in a room in a police station with loaded with stuff and bulletin boards and everything, and he'll walk right over if he sees a misspelled word. It's like his mind is he's like a savant when it comes to that.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember he called us out one day on we had a date wrong on a clipboard or something in the hospital, and he spotted it. And he was like, "That's wrong. That shouldn't be that date. It's another." And I was like, "Okay, quick, quick!" So we had to like switch it out really fast. I had to go run up to the office and print it out and bring it back down
Oh,
real
God.
quick.
Well,
Well-
one thing, Kim, which was really interesting, is right now you're looking at that picture of the electron microscope, the iconic orange
Yeah.
electron that we got from Alpha Medical, which is in the original series from the original first pilot.
Wow.
We were able to get all the original lab equipment from Alpha Medical. They still had it. And
That's
so
awesome.
that was something that I really thought was important, to have that iconic electron microscope, because
Yeah.
you don't just replace those. Those last for a long time. They're like the Rolls Royce of microscopes. And so they last pretty much, a long, long time. And I just thought, like with Dexter, that was his, even in the original series, that was his kind of where his desk was, and the microscope was right next to him. So it was very iconic
Yeah.
from the series. I think we needed to have those cues for people who are fans of the show to go, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they're in Miami Metro."
Yeah, right.
Sure.
This recognizable points for the audience to associate is really important. And thank God Alpha still had it. Because
Yeah, well, they still had the original cabinets because I made sure they got a lot of the dressing.
Oh,
The cabinets in the lab were the ones that they built for the original show that Alpha got, and they were about ready to trash them and get rid of them. And we saved them from a dumpster basically right in the nick of time and brought them into our set. So that helped tie it in too.
yeah.
Same with the spatter prints will come later because he hasn't really gotten into that where he moves,
Right.
into a different section of the lab.
I love the lab. I love like their little space and how you've given it personality. And I also too like wonder like what this storyline of Sarah Michelle Gellar becomes. Like if the show goes on of like, well, how does that relationship, come and go and everything. I thought it was just
Yeah.
interesting. Um I don't have a wide of the police station, but you built the police station on set and switched it out for dates and everything. So how was rebuilding and recreating a set you had done? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, oh, I remember where this went. I remember was it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
it
It's funny because like then if we go back to the OG and that's season 4 when Trinity kills Dexter's wife, that bathroom,
right.
iconic scene with the blood overflowing on the floor and the baby and baby Harrison in the floor.
Yeah.
I built that. Well, I can't tell you how many times, but I built it at least twice.
Yeah.
I built it on New Blood, where he has a lot of flashbacks. So
Right.
and that shipping container, I don't know how many times we've done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the police station. So we took the original, we made a little bit of improvements, because now don't forget from when it last aired, when we first saw it in the pilot, where however many years prior. So we took some liberty to try to make some little changes that we knew it was earlier in time with color and we try to open it up a little more.
How many stages did you have?
At one, well, two.
Two.
So our main sets were on one stage, and then we had other swing sets on the second stage, and then we had a third that when we did the water tank.
How much prep time did you guys have?
Not enough.
Never enough.
Never enough.
Yeah, I had a bit. I had like about 14 weeks, I want to say 14 or 15. I read through all the first 10 episodes and then started finding locations because that's the key is cheating California to be Miami.
Right.
And now, in addition to that, time periods.
Mhm.
So, location scouting was very tricky to find. And of course, we had to find our exterior first, and then I could kind of match the architecture to build the house. So once we settled on what Dexter's exterior was going to be, then I designed it. And then, of course, once we go in and into the backyard, it's our world. But
Where's this
keeping
house?
that Miami flavor, we did the chalicey windows, a lot of textured glasses. We did the clear story on the ceiling, on the roof, the windows, just all those Miami little tidbits. And actually, I've lived in Florida for a while, so I kind of know, that the particular things. And I know, Jeff is pretty. He's knowledgeable of Miami, and he actually has a place in Miami as well.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun.
Where is his house? Where's the exterior of his house? Is that in the valley or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's shot in the valley,
Yeah.
over I think in
It's Van Nuys, I think.
Van
Was
Nuys area. Yeah, which is
Cute house.
we traveled a lot on this show back and forth from Pasadena, Van Nuys to
Long
nowhere
Beach.
in between. It was either
Yeah.
Long Beach or
Long Beach, Marina Del Rey, wherever the how it's been is color, palm trees, and water.
Right.
That's always been our mantra. Like that's really how we sell Florida. And of course, we can't see any hills or mountains, so we have to strategically find these locations that fit the bill for all of that.
I wanted to ask about the plastic. And do you always use the same mill of Visqueen? Like, do you always know what your thick and thinness of, so that
Yeah, in the original series, they actually gave me a book, a kill room book.
oh wow.
Back and
Oh,
put
yeah.
together on millimeters, like what you could use, what grade. It's 0.02,
Ugh.
8, 10 millimeter. Like, so we went back and forth. You know, if we did the walls, it had to be a certain opacity to it. You know, you couldn't be too thick, but on the floors, you needed the really heavy duty weight plastic that people wouldn't slip on.
The
So it's
white.
almost completely you know, the heavier stuff on the floor, which you don't really see, and then certain things we did with a lighter plastic. I mean, there's a whole science to doing a kill room,
Yeah.
and every new director that comes on that has no concept of like what it takes to do a kill room. There are times where this one in particular,
Look.
you know, the director kept saying, well, can we just like, can he be doing it as we're shooting it? And can he pull it down and wrap it up? And I'm like, it doesn't, in the Dexter verse, it's possible, but in our world, it's not possible.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's,
I
and
mean, in
even,
this one before, like you got the lampshade and everything like tucked under and the table in the back. I mean, it's a skill, and
yeah, this was his,
it's meticulous that this character does it. It's part of his character that he's doing all this, so you have to
yeah,
do it right.
it's in his mind, you know, he's because he's in forensics, he understands how blood can spray and travel, and especially in the way he operates. So I think it's more just a paranoia kind of thing about making sure every surface is covered.
Yeah.
And this was in the beginning there. So this scene in Nurse Mary was very awkward. It was kind of haphazard and not really together yet. He was just figuring it out. So we had to like reverse engineer it. Like, what would he's just discovering the plastic and what he can use and how he can use it and dispose of it. So we had to go back in time and figure out how he learned to really do a kill room. And as we went along, we progressed. It became more and more efficient and more precise. And so, you know, he's learning his craft and learning how to cover his tracks. So this one in particular, you know, we used like 4 different grades of plastic just to cover the room. And there was a question of like, do we do the ceiling? You know,
Right.
probably wouldn't cover the ceiling because he's not really quite there yet of understanding that maybe there could be blood squirt up and hit the rafters or whatever. So there's always a lot of conversations about the kill rooms. And even in the original series, it was like they would come through and inspect all my kill rooms and make sure they were exactly by the book.
Do you wrap the actors, or is that props?
Props does it. We have a special rig in which they do that. And I might say that even on the original series, and Eric can attest to this, the actors get really freaked out. Every single one of
Yeah.
them.
Really?
They think it's cool, but the minute they are in a prone position, half naked, for during the rehearsals and everything, I know that Patrick Dempsey, he was really getting to a point where he was getting really frustrated and angry.
Wow.
When in the arcade scene, he couldn't wait to get out of that position. He was freaking out. And like this here, because he was really just in it. And, you know, Patrick was getting really intense during the rehearsals with him, and they were really going at it. And I think when you're in that position, you really start to feel the fear of what it'd be like to be in that position, knowing that you were going to die.
Yeah.
And the tension and everything, that really the actors think it's all fun and games, and then they get in that wrap and they just really freak out. It gets claustrophobic.
Yeah, it's like a coffin.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got the whole crew looking at you pretty much naked with just a vanity cloth on. You know, it's really it's a trip.
It's crazy because I was like, "Ooh, Dempsey's in this, nice." And then I was like, "Oh wait, now I know why he's in it. He's a killer." Like, sometimes you're like, "Why are they in this part?" And then you're like, "Oh, because
Yeah.
he's gonna have a bigger part. He's gonna." Yeah, he was good. He was a
Yeah.
bastard, really, prick. I was wondering, is that one game open because Dexter went over to play it? Is that why you kept that game open, not covered in plastic? Waiting for him to wake up?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the arcade.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a storyline in it because he sees that, the high score in there from Patrick Dempsey's character's son.
Oh,
He sees it
right.
initially.
Yeah, it was a clue. It was connected in the storyline.
Yeah.
Oh, and they kept. I was wondering why they kept. I don't know. I just kept saying like, why is that one open? I mean, I know I watched it, but I mean, it still was like, I feel like he should cover that.
Well, he did when during the kill, he had a slit in it that he opened up to play, and then you see it during the kill, it's closed.
Oh.
So,
Yeah, that was more of a thing for him to torture the character. Like, so, that was one of his things. Like when he kills, he'll have pictures of their victims that they
Right.
can see. That was kind of leaning in towards that direction.
I love all this neon. So is this a build?
No, that's a location.
Oh, it is.
I'm not. I don't have that picture on. What is this? The arcade?
The arcade, yeah.
Yeah, no, that was an arcade. That was an actual arcade. We came in and changed that all. Put period machines in there.
Yeah.
And we changed out some of the neon, I think, as well. And we had
Yeah, we added neon. Right.
Yeah.
Well, we got a period hockey table, and then set lighting put these little light tubes inside of it, which is interesting, but it gave a great effect.
Yeah. It's great. I mean, all the blue. I do love how like with the green and the other kill, like the lighting really enhances all the plastic too, and like it's really makes it pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we really get into the lighting. Like I'm very close with the DPs and work with them and obviously the directors. But yeah, like a lot of those sets because it was Miami, and especially period Miami, we use color a lot in lighting.
Yeah, it's really pretty. So here is we're looking at pictures of the build of the tank that you guys did, which is a massive build. Because in the story, the kid is in this hole, I guess, and it starts to fill up, which is
So the
terrifying.
concept, there's a lot of ideas thrown around about that. Building it and taking it out to the Disney Ranch and dropping it in a tank, and I'm like, no, we can't do that. The way it's scripted, it's got to start filling up, and we wanted it to have to control the intake of the water at the levels and then be able to drain it again and then quickly back and forth. So this, when we see a lot of the set on the bottom, and then there was two sets. There was one where we shot all the scenes, and then the only one that was the tank, we duplicated. We actually took that set and put it in a tank.
Oh wow, wow. That's so much work. So much structural work has to go into that, and the weight of the water, and like
they found out the hard way, the weight of water.
Uh-oh. Did the stage break?
Raf was on that segment of the thing of the nightmare, and a lot of clipboards dropping to the ground and configuration.
When they first filled it, I guess they didn't follow whoever. It wasn't our people, but I won't say who it was, but they didn't follow the engineer's instructions properly.
Yeah.
And it started leaking. I mean, it didn't blow out, but it started leaking. So we had to drain it and fix it and do it how the engineer told, instructions were, and then it was fine.
Yeah.
We had to reschedule. We had it all primed and ready, and the stunt guys were in there, were about to do tests and everything, and then it sprung a leak, and then that was a whole shutdown, and then we had to figure out, and then we discovered that someone had not followed the engineer's advice, and anyway, it all worked out in the end, but we had to reschedule and do it all again. But it looked great.
It looked great. Yeah, terrifying.
I think we really went to, give us all our scripts were really well written and they were epic, and we required a good amount of design look and everything. We really brought a great look to it. I feel like it was movie quality the whole way through, and
Oh, definitely.
Jeff did a fantastic job of doing that, and it really translated into great visuals on screen.
They're all little films. I mean, the amount of detail and the amount of sets you guys have in the episodes, it's like crazy.
Well,
It's crazy that it's
he
TV.
says, Dexter isn't for the meek. It's a very challenging show. It's not something you can ever phone in. And, I had a lot of experience doing ship work when I did 5 seasons of The Last Ship on TNT, the Michael Bay show. And so
beautiful.
when Eric was
Beautiful show.
asking me like, "Hey, can you do a ship Pee-wee?" I'm like, I could do that stuff in my sleep. Like, and it's really fun to do. There's a certain way that you have to do it. You follow it's form follows function. And so
There's some good pipe here. I gotta applaud you.
There's
some really great pipe here, like running down. There's this one photo, like running down the hallways. There's some really great pipe here.
It's work, but it's worth it because you really it brings you in, to the atmosphere. A lot of people think that we just go on a ship and shoot this.
Well, I did. I was like, oh, they were at the Queen Mary too, because I was just down there, and I was like, oh,
Iowa. Yeah, I've had people say, "Oh, yeah, you shot on the Iowa again down in Long Beach." But
no,
going back to the tank, the kid who played that in that tank, I mean, he really was. I think he transformed his fear when the water started coming in to really enhance his acting. Because I was there when they were shooting that scene, and he was just, such a trooper doing that scene. And I mean, it was frightening, to think as an actor, you put yourself in that situation.
yeah.
Anything could go wrong. You're kind of at the mercy of engineering to understand like what the volume of water going in there and what it does, and it's really kind of very tricky. You can't really predict it.
How many times did you have to like practice getting the water in and draining it out and did you have a lot of times doing that, or was it?
Yeah, we probably had at least a dozen times or more. Even from before the tank was even actually built, testing the intakes outside and water levels and shrinking the on what size diameter the holes were going to be, for the water pressure. And we put restrictors in them. We wanted them to look more theatrical, but to be able to shoot the water out with not as much pressure as it would take for that diameter hole. So we put restrictors in. So it was a whole calculation and formula.
Yeah.
And in placement to not hurt the actor but still give it, a very visual, dangerous look.
Say there's things you never think you're gonna look up in your life, and now you're an expert on tanks. It's an amazing job we have, and pipe and ship holes and then the way it's lit red, like that's amazing. Like how versatile the sets are.
That was interesting because Eric can talk about this more, but it was a directive from Clyde as well that he really didn't want red only in certain areas of the show. So we always kind of pulled the red out.
Right.
But Eric can probably tell you more about that.
Yeah, that was more of a Michael Lehman thing. We just really wanted to keep the red to when we, so it was the blood look. Whenever we saw blood, it was more graphic and keeping red out except for blood. But this particular instance, how do we light the ship that's that's like in mothballs? So it's kind of more like the emergency light feel.
I do like when he gets in there and he starts turning all the lights off. Like that's also a thing. Like when he's going down the hallway and he's going through these things and it's just the emergency lighting. It's really creepy.
Yeah, that particular red was due to the fact that there was a flare gun that got shot at him. So we, set lighting kind of improvised that the flare dropped down below and was glowing up through the grates from the flare gun. So that kind of that's what perpetuated that kind of red glow was from the flare, the only source of light, which made a cool effect.
How many of these rooms did you build? 4? One.
We did. I think we built 2 or 3, and we flipped one into another one. I think, right?
Change the scale.
Because we had it on a riser on a platform, so you could get the stairs coming up and down and people, and then they went in one, then they went down. We switched it around and changed it all, and then they showing them coming up and down the ladder.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then we had another piece that was the piece that went into the tank. There was a bigger set piece of that.
Right, that was the third part. And then hallway.
Eric Weiler, he was trying to explain it to everybody, and people. There was a lot of head scratching you know, people saying, wait a minute, so the ladder is here, so this goes downstairs. No, it gets switched around. It was a puzzle that he had to explain at length to everyone that didn't understand the design of what he was trying to do without having to build 5 different levels.
Right.
We had a lot of
Great.
SketchUp models going.
Yeah.
This.
And we had to lead them a lot, you know.
And then this hallway, is this a build? Is this a location?
No, that's a location. So what we did, we have another hallway that leads into the actual ballast room that we copied those, that we matched that. So there's like direct cuts where you're walking around
Right.
and down those hallways and taking turns, and then you're onto the stage.
Oh wow. Um, how many sets did you have in your finale, do you think? I mean, it was like endless.
Yeah, we had a huge amount because we also had the whole shipyard thing, or the
container.
container yard. We had all that. We built those. We built the interiors of those on stage. And did we bring the one? We brought one of them to the location as well, or partial. I think we brought some of it down. Yeah, we had to like sync up a lot of stuff with stage work, and then at the location in Long Beach, but make sure all the serial numbers matched for all the things and all that. We had a lot of locations and sets in the last episode. Yeah.
What do you think the biggest challenge was for this season? Either set wise or just logistics or
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge, well, was the finale with the tank. That was, we were, and I started talking about that from day one. I said, we need to wrap our heads around this to make sure that's all done. So that was like preconceived early on, which changed many times until we came up with the best solution of how to do it. And then it's always the challenge of doing period, and in different locations. I mean, finding all that stuff and, really keeping our eyes. So, we shot about, I think it was 8 days in Miami in the beginning, the first 8 days of the shoot. And what we did was we took that stuff and sprinkled it throughout the series. Throughout each episode was a little flavor, little reality of Miami.
Yeah.
And that highlight scene we shot in Miami, because that was actually, it's not open anymore, but we made it, we took it out of mothballs.
right.
And did it.
Wow.
So that was fun. And that was another one when we did that kill on the table in the highlight stadium. The actor, he freaked out.
Really?
I mean, we had to stop. He couldn't, like, it took a lot to do that.
He was panicking. It's funny when we do Miami. I think that was the challenge, is 3 different time periods: 70s, 80s, 90s, flip flopping back and forth. But not only that, it's like, I have friends in Miami who always give me a hard time. Like, I can't believe you're shooting Dexter and you don't come by and see us or say hello or go.
I don't have a minute, dude.
I'm not there. I've never been there, like, except to visit my place there. But it's so funny. We do fool people. They're like, no way. I know you were definitely in Miami because I said, no, that was Long Beach.
Yeah.
So, you fool people from Miami that they actually feel that they're there is a big compliment and
Yeah, it is.
all of our art department to pull it off.
One of the logistical things we always had to do with locations was, we'd go in and we'd have all these security cameras that were all from 2024.
Right.
We'd have to get rid of all that and take that layer out, and then other things like you wouldn't think about, but we would take down a lot of like handicap signs and stuff like that, because it was just at the time when all that stuff was coming in 91. So covering blue curbs, all those things, we really made sure we kind of got the right time period with a lot of that stuff on our locations we went into.
Do you each have a favorite kill set?
I like the arcade one.
Like
I like
arcade.
that.
There's been so many over the years. They all like.
Yeah, too many kill sets.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think the arcade looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
We had some good, I did. The tricky one was, I think, Nurse Mary, which because we were trying to bring as close as we could to the original.
Right.
Yeah.
And we kind of retrofitted a location for that, and it was to make kind of a day, because that was tricky just with the height, and I wanted to do a big crane shot because it's his first kill over the head. But we found a place and we really made it work well. We kind of acted it out for the director and filmed it, and I said, this is how we can do it, and because he was trying to wrap his head around it, and once we actually did it ourselves, he goes, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeffrey.
Sometimes you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And, he was bucking in the stalls trying to figure it out. And Eric kept trying to explain it to him. And then it wasn't until the day he showed up on set that he finally got it. And Michael's a brilliant director. He just couldn't see it, so sometimes it's up to us in art
Yeah.
department to really sell it, and I think there's a lot of selling that has to go on this show, especially with the time period and everything else and the sets and the scheduling is pretty intense. You're doing 3 or 4 setups a day, just trying to keep up with the
Yeah, I mean, and talking about Michael, like I knew Michael. We did American Rust together,
Mhm.
and he's one of my favorite directors. He'd be in my top 5 list for sure. And he really gives me a lot of latitude as far as finding locations and the things that fit the bill. And we just had. It was just such a pleasure actually working with him.
Did you have a lot of directors from the original series? Like, did they bring back? No.
No, we only had 2 directors. So that's kind of been recently what the bigger shows,
Yeah.
especially that we have all
Keep you.
So they shoot them in blocks because that
Yeah.
way we can cross-board them and we can shoot out locations. So, we might be shooting stuff from episode 1, 6, and 9 together.
Yeah.
So we only have to go there one time, or we try to keep it as minimal as possible. So we had La Palmita, which was a Cuban restaurant on the water, which we shot down in Long Beach. And we completely transformed this place. It was an Irish pub, and we made it into a Miami Cuban restaurant.
Yeah.
And that was really fun. I mean, we covered walls and changed.
That's the
all kinds
ending
of
scene
things.
too. That's where they end the series,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. And, placing the boats outside. I'm like, I want boats out the window. I had to took the marine guy or marine coordinator come down and moving around. And I said, we have to sell this as Miami. This is this is big. This is their hangout. This is Batista's family restaurant. So, and then thinking ahead, like in future seasons, if we get more, if we got a pickup, which we did, is that something that we maybe are going to build now? And,
Right.
I was thinking about all that and what would have this look, because the place itself is a character and that's what sells Miami.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd love it if we could build that as in a future season. I would like to do if we do that, I'm going to pitch that we have a video wall so we can actually see movement in water and things going by.
That would be really good. 'Cause then it's selling looking outside, and they're going to be like, oh, we don't want to look outside if we can't.
Oh, yeah, we would
know what I
have
mean?
to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, because in today's world, you can get away with backdrops only to a certain degree, and then I mean, the video walls. Like I keep up on technology and what our options are, and we'll have our post production supervisor around with us, or when we're scouting visual effects supervisor, and what can I do? Like where does our work? Where do we have to take it to, and when can we cut back? Like for example, the police station. We put a lot of signs up, and we found that exterior, which I think was the best exterior we've had throughout the whole universe of Dexter, because they've had multiple exterior police stations that all kind of I thought weren't the best, and I was looking really hard for this, and we found one that just looked amazing.
Mhm.
And they had this giant old tree that we blocking the beautiful architecture and the palm trees that I was able to convince them to cut down.
Oh, wow.
And it just made that building look so much better.
Yeah.
I will say, because I did Dr. Odyssey, they had it was all backings. There was no green screen because Ryan hates green screens. And so, but they then digitally did shimmer on the water and everything off of the backings, which I thought actually looked decent.
Yeah.
They did
Yeah,
that.
you can do it. But again, like if you were in La Palmita looking out on the water, that'd be difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
On the
you're
original
directly
series,
looking
they
at
had a backdrop there, and they actually glued on little reflective spangles on there that they blew wind on to see the water glistening. It was kind of funny. It was like old school Hollywood. You're
That's
like, you got
great.
like a scenic person sticking these little tiny pieces of foil, kind of like that Mylar.
Yeah, you can't say Mylar.
Yeah.
Then we go back to Mylar Beach.
Exactly. So it was just kind of like the reflection of the water. And so I think Eric's really pushing towards the volume wall in the future, because when you look at it, that they can only do certain time of day and night at the
Right.
police station.
Yeah.
And so it's like every scene is shot at like midday, and so with a volume wall, we can start to show the sun go down. We can show we can show afternoon, we can show early evening, dusk, dawn. I think it'll make it more believable. It's something that we always fight for is authenticity and make it believable for the viewer to understand that they maybe are in a real location instead of on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the resolution of the cameras and everything is just going up and up and up.
Yeah.
So
It's hard to get away with anything.
yeah, I know. And the prices, the technology's coming down. And with stuff like the volume wall, you can also like change the seasons,
Yeah.
make it
Yeah,
cloudy, make it sunny, all that. It's definitely a thing for the future for us, I think.
So when do you start season 2? Are you prepping? Are you
Well, the thing is, so we're finishing. We have another 20 days
Resurrection?
of filming of Resurrection. So Clyde and Scott Reynolds are here. Well, not here, but in New York. So once we finish that, then they're going to open the writers' room.
Wow.
So yeah, it'll we're hoping. I've been hearing possible start shooting in February, which would then back us up starting prep in October, November, something like that.
So
But
the viewer's going to get Resurrection next.
Yes.
Resurrection premieres July 11th.
Mhm.
Wow. That's quick. You're still shooting? You're going to
Still shooting.
Yeah.
I actually overlapped. I was prepping Resurrection from Original Sin,
Right.
writing the scripts, getting things lined up, and I was flying back and forth.
Yeah, he was flying back and forth. We talked on Zoom or on call every day, and then it would just be like okay, I'll be back on Thursday, and I'll be there till Saturday. We're gonna get this done, and then I'll be back the week after. And it's like, yeah, we had a lot of that, but it was great. It all worked out well.
It's
And
like
I've always liked
it's old school. It's like you got you're still shooting while you're on the air. It's
And it
exciting.
was funny. Like I like to do little movies. So when I do a set, because Eric was gone, I walk through and I do the whole scene and kind of walk through it. And it became a thing that Clyde actually got really amused by. And they would look forward to my little videos, but it was more to help Eric. I would send it to him first, and then he would, say, go ahead and send it to them. But I would walk through with my camera on my phone and do the whole
Do the whole
kind
scene.
of blocking it so they could see all the details and then give me, notes of what I needed to change or what I needed to do. So it really helped as a decorator to really shoot a video of everything rather than pictures so they could see and talk about the story as you went along. Sometimes I get my set dressers to act out certain fight scenes as the show. And Eric got really good at like blocking it and shooting it to like just made it an easier sell. We kind of did we could do our own Dexter little movie of the
Oh my God,
sets
that's
prior
great.
to shooting.
That's a great tip because I do find when you send pictures, it's a little wider. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's the wide angle of what they're, and they're like, what's that over there? And you're like, no, just
Yeah.
I'm showing you this.
Yeah. And then Eric being the director, he would always be like, you got to shoot it in cinematic on your camera and don't turn it on the side. Just keep it vertical. It comes out better. And so we just kind of had fun doing the stories, and I think the showrunners found it very amusing.
I'm sure
they
it's a
kind of-
really helpful tool for them and in prepping like even just a day ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Monica, our director, Raymond, she she was kind of new to the Dexter world. So for her, I think it even, don't you agree, Eric? It kind of even helped her kind of, there was many times she's like, thank you so much. It really helped me to think about the set and my shots, how I wanted to set it up. So she really appreciated it because she wasn't able to see it completely dressed until the day of.
Right.
So
Right.
she was able
Yeah.
to kind of envision it like, oh, I see now. Yeah, that's a good idea. I can incorporate that into the shot.
I think
And
that's one of the things I fight for all the time is like, okay, well, you're making us dress this like day of or like the day before. Like,
Right.
there's no time for change. You're in Long Beach, like, do you know what I mean? Or like, there's no time for changes. So I'm just letting you know, you're doing all this day of shit. This is it. We're all on the same page here.
Yeah, especially when you're on the move and you're trying to stay ahead of company, because
Yeah.
Dexter's a train that'll roll right over if you're not prepared, it'll take you out, and you won't ever get back up, you know.
Send flowers to all those decorators before you.
I think they're kind of glad that I've taken the job because I don't like anybody on it.
Congratulations on the season. It's really fantastic. And as a Dexter fan, just going back and seeing the origin story is really great, I must say. So bravo, well done. And all of the time periods and everything are fantastic. So great job. Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks for taking the time out to do this. And I really do hope it gets recognized because it's a lot. You guys did a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, people kind of
Yeah,
put it-
we're gonna be pushing hard for that Emmy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, these guys worked their tails off. I mean, the crew was amazing. I mean, and I always tell everybody, you're as good as your last day on the job.
Yeah.
Never stop.
Yeah.
And work it till the last shot's done.
Always be shopping, always be decorating. That's how we work. That's how Jeff knows.
Yeah. Well, it's just, when you're passionate about a show and you love it, it makes it even better.
It makes such a difference. It does. I hate to say it, but you're like, when I'm in the zone of the show that I'm in and everybody
Yeah.
cares and everybody's in the zone, it makes such a difference.
Well,
Oh, yeah,
Eric's a good
absolutely.
leader. He's good at inspiring. He was a decorator in his early years, and so we know how to do the volume of it. And Raf, the same. A lot of great input. Everybody was really on point. And you're only as good as your weakest link, and there wasn't a weak link in the bunch, and that made everybody's job run smooth.
Yeah.
Huge thank you to Eric, Raf, and Jeffrey for talking about this and really giving that whole picture of designer, art director, and set decorator working together to get this done. Raf is my co-governor for the Emmys, so I speak to him almost every day. And I know how busy they were, like going down to San Pedro and Long Beach, and it was a tough shoot for them. So they did a fantastic job. I really have to say bravo for all of that. So thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the meticulous design of Dexter Original Sin, FYC. If you are not already subscribed, be sure to follow Decorating Pages on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. You can look at all of the gory sets we just talked about on the YouTube video. And really, everything from Severance, The Studio, Matlock, Mid-Century Modern, Hacks. I mean, it goes on and on the last 2 months of interviews for you to listen to before making that Emmy vote, I hope, so you don't want to miss it. Listen, watch, subscribe, and keep on, people. And that's about it. I am going to take a little summer break. If you're listening this far in, which I know a lot of you drop off, you bastards. But I'm going to take a little summer break. So you're going to get a little taste here and there, but I've given you a lot to listen to for the for the summer. I've doubled up, and you've got enough for the summer. So, thank you so much, and I know you've gotten an earful. I'm Kim Wannop for Decorating Pages.